major issue that we see comes from NTE's video where he did a dynasty with Kennesaw State. Okay, the first thing we see is his first year at Kennesaw State, which I believe is the worst rated school in the entire game. He was able to sign the number 2 rated quarterback in the entire country. That's not realistic. Okay, now I see people arguing saying, well, he threw all his recruiting points at him. In real life, if Kennesaw State threw every recruiting resource they had at the number 2 rated quarterback in the country, they still wouldn't be able to sign him. Now, people gonna bring up Travis Hunter. Well, Travis signed for Jackson State, which also brings me to my next problem with it. This number 2 rated quarterback in the entire country had 0 scholarship offers, except Kennesaw State. That makes no sense how the number 2 rated quarterback in the entire country has 0 scholarship offers. Again, let's bring up a guy like Travis Hunter who went to go sign with a small school like Jackson State. The thing about that is Travis Hunter still had offers from every other school. He just chose to go there because of Dion. Having the number 2 rated quarterback in the entire recruiting class not have a scholarship offer, from my understanding, from what I saw, didn't have a scholarship offer and was only getting interest from schools like Louisville and Kentucky, I believe, makes no sense to me at all. That needs to be fixed ASAP, because think about if that problem persists and you get to year 3, 4, 5 of your dynasty and you got the number 3 quarterback signed to Sam Houston State, you got the number 1 wide receiver signed to Charlotte, these things will make no sense. This needs to be addressed ASAP, because people are going to be starting their dynasty. Some people going straight into dynasty mode as soon as they open up the game. Another thing is the recruiting difficulty is too easy, because he was able to land 4-star recruits and 3-star recruits like it was nothing, and he jumped his team overall from somewhere like 71 overall up to about 81 overall in 1 year. In 1 year, Kennesaw State went from the worst team in the game to a solid 80 overall in 1 year. That's too easy. Now here's the issue. EA Sports does a bad job when it gives us options for settings. In the past, with all their sports games, they give limited options with settings. There needs to be sliders, just like NBA 2K has pages full of sliders that we can adjust for trade difficulty negotiations and free agency signing. We need to be given that same type of slider in a game like this when it comes to recruiting difficulty, especially if you're running an online dynasty as the commissioner and you want to make sure it stays realistic. You want to be able to say, hey, I'm going to put that slider down towards the bottom where it's going to be very hard if you're a small program to build up, but that makes it more fun to a lot of us. Okay, for those who want it to be easy and want to be able to sign 5-star recruits immediately and build your school up or your small school up and build them into a powerhouse, that's not my style. But just because it's not my style doesn't mean I don't think you should be able to do that. You should be able to have a slider where you can crank it up to where it's easy. They need to give us options. Everybody likes to play differently, and we don't have any options to cater towards how we like to play it in terms of difficulty with recruiting. Okay, the next issue we're going to talk about is one that I addressed in my last video, and it got a lot of these groupies mad because I said not being able to change jersey numbers and attributes is going to be an issue, especially jersey numbers. It looked like he signed a center, and that center was assigned the jersey number 16. Now, somebody said it changed later on. Once he started the season, it was assigned a different number, but here's the problem. We have to depend on EA to get it right. I don't want my defensive back to be signed and be wearing number 49, and then when I start the season, it hasn't changed and it stays that way, and he's still number 49 jersey number. Very, very rarely do people who play defensive back who are any type of good wear that number in college football. Also, there's colleges out there that have jersey number traditions, okay? I believe LSU has it to where you have to accomplish something to wear a certain jersey number on that team. There's other colleges out there where you have to accomplish a certain feat or be one of the, I think one of the teams out there in college football has it where only the top 9 leaders on the team get to wear jersey numbers 1 through 9. There's people out there who want to simulate that type of realness in their program, especially if their school in real life has that tradition when it comes to jersey numbers. We're not able to do that. I don't want my running back wearing number 47 and me not being able to change it. that will look dumb. For those who think it's not a big deal, there's a post on Reddit that almost has 1,000 upvotes that people saying it's a big deal. There's people all over NTE's video saying it's a big deal. There's people all over Operation Sports forums who are saying it's a big deal, with hundreds and hundreds of comments saying this is ridiculous. We need to be able to control something as simple as our jersey numbers, okay? Because we already saw a glimpse of how it can get ugly with his center being assigned the number 16 jersey. We need control over jersey numbers. All right, this one right here, this is the biggest issue I see right now, that if it's not fixed, it's gonna absolutely ruin the experience playing Dynasty. And that is simulation stats, okay? So we saw in the videos at the end of the season in the Dynasty mode, we got to see certain players' stats at the end of the season. There's some alarming stats. I think it was from NTE's videos that we saw, okay? Let's take a look. In his Dynasty mode, in the entire country, there were 6 players who had 1,000 yards rushing. In real life, there were 45 players with over 1,000 yards last year. Only 6 people in his Dynasty across the entire country had over 1,000 yards rushing. In real life, there were 45 players who got over. That's not some, oh, it kind of missed it. I don't expect there to be 45 every time. No, there's variance, but the variance should not be that wide. Maybe one year it's 37 players who get, maybe the next year it's, 55 players who rush for over 1,000. But to have it in real life where you get around 45 players who rush for over 1,000 yards in a season, but in the game there was only 6. Country, there was a total of 6 defensive touchdowns scored in the entire country. In real life last year, there was 239 defensive touchdowns scored. There's something going on with the coding of the simulation stats that's game breaking. This isn't a small variance of change from 239, what we see in real life with defensive touchdowns. It wouldn't be bad if there's a little bit of variance, right? Maybe one season we get around 200, maybe next year we get around 255. But to have it as 239 defensive touchdowns in real life, and then our simulated stats can't even get close to, there was only 6 defensive touchdowns scored. This is the type of dynasty breaking simulation logic that could ruin your experience in dynasty mode. What could cause those stats to be so out of whack, where only 6 players rushed for over 1,000 yards when there was over 45 who did that in real life? How would that happen? How would there be such a big disparity between something like that? Okay, I have a guess or a theory on why that is, and I think it has to do with this wear and tear system. The concept of the wear and tear system is a beautiful thing. The idea of it is a beautiful thing and has been needed in football games for a long time. However, programming and coding of the wear and tear system does not look like it was implemented properly. That's why I think you see only 6 running backs with 1,000 yards. I think the wear and tear system is not coded correctly, and it's having a huge effect on players' playing time to the point where it's messing with realistic simulation stats. Here's the bad part. We don't have a slider, just like NBA 2K has a slider that you can change when it comes to injury frequency, when it comes to everything, trade negotiations, contract negotiations, all these things. They have sliders for that. NBA 2K is a sports game that gives you a lot of tools to address those things. But from the settings menu here, in the videos that were released yesterday on Dynasty Mode, they don't give us any sliders to adjust how much wear and tear affects the players. All they give us is an on and off switch. The reason that's an issue is that means we're going to be 100% dependent on EA to tweak it themselves, versus what EA could do, instead of having to put out a patch or multiple patches that try to find a middle ground with what players want. Just give us the option to adjust with sliders, just like NBA 2K does. Give us the option to adjust the effects of wear and tear out of 0 and 100, and we can to adjust it ourselves with sliders. Sadly, one of the features that I was most excited about, I might have to play with it off. I might have to just tweak with the fatigue system and the stamina to kind of create my own little wear and tear system, because it looks like the one that they implemented is not coded correctly, and they don't give us any tools to make any tweaks under the hood ourselves, like a game like NBA 2K does. Nobody in any field thinks that a product that they're gonna buy is gonna be perfect. None of our favorite video games of all time were perfect. They were great, that's why we love them, but they weren't perfect. No car that you buy, no shoe that you buy, no headphones that you buy will ever be perfect. But what we want as a consumer, when we spend money on something, we don't want it to be broken, all right? Some of these things would break the game. Not having a recruiting difficulty slider, especially if these one-star CPU controlled programs start signing the number 2 overall rated quarterback or the number 1 rated wide receiver, and we can't fix that, that could be game breaking in terms of dynasty experience. When the simulation logic has it to where they're terribly simulating rushing yards across the country or defensive touchdowns across the country, that could break your dynasty experience. It's important to be vocal and speak out about the things that they need to fix, because the gameplay looks excellent. From what I've seen, looks like the best gameplay that EA Sports has ever put out for any of their sports games. But the under the hood stuff, we don't have those options to fix some of these things. It can start to take away from the enjoyment that we start to experience off the field when it comes to roster management, transfer portal, recruiting, editing, players' jersey numbers, and simulation stats.
Come out here and cheat. Starting off, I have to give a big thanks to EA for allowing me to capture this gameplay of College Football 25 early and bringing it to you on my YouTube channel. It's still a work in progress, so you'll see that beta tag bounce around the screen throughout the video, but the wait has been since July.
'25, and let me tell you, the attention to detail is incredible. Every time I visited a stadium, even stadiums that I've played in multiple times, it felt like I was seeing something new. I've talked about it in previous videos, but when I went down to their studio in Orlando, the big mantra that a lot of developers really said is that every team is somebody's favorite team. So let's look at Virginia Tech, for example. I know that a lot of people were bummed that Enter the Sandman wasn't licensed in the game, and I get it. That's frustrating if you're a Virginia Tech fan. The track they have in the game kind of is substituting for that. It's not the same. I totally get that, but it's kind of in a similar vibe, and you can hear it right here. But you'll see the Virginia Tech ROTC kid sitting behind one end zone, and then you're gonna see the band behind the other. The presentation overlay that showcases a top player on your team to watch out for, it starts feeling incredible and really feels like Saturday. But once you're actually in there and you're playing, you have the gameplay going, you're looking at all the detail across of it, and you're realizing that college football is back. Enjoy this big touchdown play I've got here for Virginia Tech against Georgia, followed by a look at Tech's mascot.
From the gun, wants to pass, going for the big play, and it's caught inside the 25. Touchdown, Virginia Tech! Made the grab and finished the deal in the end zone. They strike first. Offense gets on the board, and the first passing touchdown.
While the traditions for Virginia Tech are honestly pretty widely known, I wanted to try a team like South Carolina that's a good program, not a major program, and I really just wanted to test what EA was saying about every team is somebody's favorite team. When NCAA Football 14 came out, South Carolina was having back-to-back 11-win seasons. And then since then, South Carolina fans don't want to talk about that. When it comes to actually looking at their intro to their stadium, look at how detailed their mascot is. Look at the fans swinging things around like crazy. Their famous chant, it's in the game too. Take a listen. I actually had the chance to chat with
What's up, guys? Today we are going to be checking out a deep dive into College Football 25's Dynasty Mode. This is what we've been waiting 10 years for, and it's just over a week away. Let's hop into it.
Street here with EA Sports College Football 25.
This is going to be insane.
Another deep dive. This time we're talking about everyone's favorite mode, Dynasty.
I can't wait.
Online Dynasty in College Football 25 can accommodate up to 32 teams, and you can play with friends for up to 30 seasons.
30
Today we'll take a closer look at the new 12-team college football playoff.
New playoffs?
Recruiting, the transfer portal.
I just can't
and
wait to
a ton
recruit.
of customization options to make your program unique.
I'm excited to see what they've changed.
College
It was
football has seen seismic
fun back in the
changes
day, but I'm
over
sure
the
it's
past few years.
even
And
deeper
in
now.
EA Sports College Football 25, you can experience this new landscape while building your program the way you want. The 2024 season marks the debut of the new 12-team college football playoff, and you can play it first in the game months before the real thing.
That's pretty
You
cool.
could be the first coach to lead your school through the new 12-team playoff and hoist the college football playoff trophy. Recruiting is the
we go.
lifeblood of college football. And in a world of unlimited transfers, managing your dynasty roster has never been more important.
Oh my gosh, there's
Evaluate your needs and opportunities for talent upgrades at the start of each season. The best way to build a powerhouse is to recruit through the high school ranks.
we're going to slow this down at
So
the end
let's
and
fill
kind of
up
go
your
through some of these
recruiting
menus.
board. Each year, over 3,500 high school recruits are generated from all over the country. with certain
3,500 from
regions
high school.
representing real-world hotspots for blue-chip talent, like
Plus, you
South
also have the
Florida
transfer
and
portal.
Metro Atlanta. Do research to find recruits that best fit your program and determine who you can realistically land. A recruit's interest in your school is decided by 14 different pitch grades like proximity to home, playing time, and brand exposure.
Oh
So you'll
my
need to
goodness.
discover how your program's pitch grades align with your recruit's desires, in addition to scouting for talent. Some players have a deal breaker requirement, and if your program cannot provide, the recruit will lock you out.
Okay, that's pretty
Deal
cool.
breakers also drive a player's decision to enter the transfer portal. Monitor at-risk players and get one last chance to convince your favorites to stay. Track
my
your
gosh.
recruits as they narrow down their top schools. Pitch a prospect to gain more interest, and then set up school visits when the timing is right.
So your players can get
It's
upset and want to enter the portal
crucial
and
to remain
transfer
in their
away
top
from you too.
10, then 8, then 5 to finally be part of their top 3. As a recruit trims down to the top 8, you can attempt to increase your appeal. If your school doesn't have exactly what the prospect is looking for, you can try to sway their opinion in your favor. Plan visits that elevate a recruit's experience, like pairing a quarterback visit with a wide receiver visit at the same time.
Oh my gosh.
It's crucial to keep an eye on the transfer portal when it opens in the offseason to round out your roster with talent you couldn't land from recruiting. Add portal prospects to your board just like you would with recruiting, but expect quick decisions as transfers have a shorter timeline to land a new home.
So the portal's going to be similar, but it's just going to move quicker. You're going to have to make
Conference
moves
realignment
quick
is a hot topic in
to
college
lock people
football.
in.
And with custom conferences in EA Sports College Football 25, Dynasty is yours to control. See what a 20-team super conference might look like, or revert to the traditional conference alignment.
Dude, the
Shape
level
the
of
conference
customization.
size and membership, and set custom conference rules, set up divisions, and more. Once you've settled your
Completely
conference
custom
options,
conferences.
it's time to select your team. Begin with a highly ranked team and dominate at the top with repeat recruiting and playoff success. Or build from the ground up with a smaller program and prove you have what it takes to go from an unknown to
Kennesaw
postseason
State.
favorite.
First year in the
We can't
BCS.
talk about your dynasty
A lot of people are gonna
without
use them.
talking about your starting job. Start as an offensive or defensive coordinator and climb the ranks to head coach. Or take over a program as the head coach right away.
Could you start as a coordinator
Choose
before? I
from
don't think you
one of
could.
the 3 base coaching
Back in the
types
day.
to start.
Oh,
Your coach type will determine what coaching skill tree you start with. Coaching skill tree you start will determine what
Before, I don't think you
one of
could.
the 3 Three base coaching
Back in the
types
day.
to start.
Oh,
Your coach type will determine what coaching skill tree you start with.
hold on. Let's go back and see that a second. We're going to go back. We're going to talk about the recruiting too. Motivator, get your players to play their best by boosting their ratings and composure. Nobody has it better than us. Recruiters, Jimmy and Joe's, not X's and O's. You scout faster, recruit better than any other type of coach or tactician. Boost your players' ratings on game day, scheme up the big plays, and let the visor fly. Ooh, I feel like motivator or recruiter's the way to go.
The abilities you acquire as you progress will determine what kind of coach you develop into.
Wow.
Unlock additional skill trees with better abilities. Or, if you build up multiple skill trees, you can unlock hybrid trees that leverage a more diverse skill set.
Oh my goodness,
The
man.
coaching carousel is an important part of every coach's journey. Whether you're the head man at your dream school or working your way up, the carousel is your way of fielding offers from other programs. Head coaches in Dynasty can actively manage their coordinator positions. So if one of your staff takes
hire
a
and
job
fire
elsewhere, or you decide to cut ties for other reasons, you can use the carousel to replace them. Remember, even the greatest coaches need support, and every coach has a unique skill tree. It's important
this
to
is
think
so
about
deep.
how you want to build your staff, whether that's doubling down on your existing strengths to max out your benefits or seeking out balance for a well-rounded staff. Choose wisely. The decisions you make here will matter to your program's success and your coach's progression. The benefits of coach talents are stackable. So if your head coach and defensive coordinator have the same ability, the impact for that ability will be greater. Well, that's it for today's deep dive into Dynasty Mode in EA Sports College Football 25. To make it game day every day this season, pre-order the MVP bundle.
I cannot believe how close we are, dude. This is ridiculous. So obviously recruiting is the thing we are most excited for in this game. It's what makes these college football games special. And I have so many memories, dude. I cannot wait to spend hours upon hours in these menus. 3,500 recruits every year that you get to go after and hopefully end up landing. So it looks like this is kind of like your main recruiting card. We're looking at Luis Lucky. He's a wide receiver from Parker, Colorado. He's a deep threat. So even before scouting, that kind of tells you what type of a player he is. He's probably pretty fast, probably good at getting open and catching the ball downfield. 5'10", 182. He's uncommitted, so he's open here. You could see you have all these different actions, searching his social media, DMing him, contacting friends and family, sitting in the house. You kind of have to be careful with this stuff. You only have a certain amount of time that you can allocate towards certain players, and you've got a whole team you have to recruit for, so you can't see into everything that a five-star recruit you end up not getting, and then you kind of ruin your offseason. So dude, this is crazy. Look at this. What was it? 14 different things: academic prestige, athletic facilities, brand exposure, campus lifestyle, championship contender, coach stability, coach prestige, conference prestige, playing time, pro potential, playing style, proximity to home, program tradition, and stadium atmosphere are all of the different motivations that he can have to potentially come to your program. Obviously, starting with a big school, a lot of this is going to be pretty easy. You're going to have a ton of prestige, a ton of lifestyle, brand exposure, stuff like that. But I intend to kind of take a pretty crappy program and bring them up. So that's going to be harder at first, but then later on over time, you'll be able to land better ones. This is what you want to see. This person playing as Colorado, and it looks like they're up there in front. They have offered a scholarship, and Brian Hall is looking like he's very strongly considering that. Dude, the fact that they said that you can play bad enough and not treat them well enough that they will leave you and go to the transfer portal. You don't just have to lock the players in, you also have to keep them, which is crazy. Oh my gosh, dude, I remember spending so many hours and looking at these and just trying to land those 4- and 5-star recruits. And when you actually had one commit to you, it was like a level of satisfaction and perseverance I've never felt before. Yeah, look at this, man. Some of the 5-star guys. Look at this lineup of schools. You're battling against the best in the nation to be able to catch some of these guys. This is just ridiculous. It's going to be so hard, but it's going to be so rewarding. Ooh, you can use friends and family as an action. That's pretty good if he's got, some family, alma mater, that sort of thing. You've also got different pitch strategies you could use. Like this one is student of the game. Looks like we've got at least 20 different strategies you could take. This one focuses on your academic prestige, coach prestige, and proximity to home. TV time here works on brand exposure, championship contender, and playing time. Try to get that NIL money. They can lock you out, which I can't remember if that was an NCAA 14 or not. not. But again, the fact that recruits can either choose to say, no, I don't want to come to your school, or I'm tired of playing at your school, I want to leave, is kind of wild. The fact that there's a sway option, if successful, this will add your chosen ideal pitch is the recruit's ideal pitch for your school only. Easier to sway when part of the proposed pitch matches his ideal pitch. So you can basically gaslight your recruits into thinking they would have come to your school. Timing is going to be a big deal too. You could see what they're doing on certain weeks, what other visits they have scheduled. So you want to make sure you're playing a good opponent, or an opponent you can beat, so that they have a good time on campus that week. The fact that you can combine visits of, quarterbacks and wide receivers and stuff is cool too, dude. Just the level of detail here is ridiculous. Last but not least, another thing I absolutely love that we saw here is that when you're creating your coach, you can either choose to be a head coach, an offensive coordinator, or a defensive coordinator, and that's kind of how you start and you work your way up from there. The skill trees are gnarly, and then the fact that you can actually choose your coordinators instead of just having them randomly assigned and then working with them, and they develop as they grow and you grow, and it's just like, it's so much deeper than it was back in the day, and I can't wait to see how this all works together. So they have a really long blog post. I'll link this down in the description in case you guys are interested, but we'll just go through some of the highlights here. So your coach progression is obviously tied to playing games and how you perform and winning and things like that, but you can also get XP from draft, how high up in the NFL draft your players go. That's exciting. You want them to do well. Of course, you've got those individual game goals. Recruiting is going to be a really big thing. I think I'm probably going to focus on recruiting mainly, and then stats like being in the top 10 and everything else. But that's crazy. Depending on where your players go in the draft, you become a more, legitimate coach. Coach archetypes are essentially meant to be like an RPG game. So you start off with kind of a base class and you work your way up from there. We did see that we had the motivator, the recruiter, and the tactician, but you're going to be able to develop those, combine those, separate those. You can focus all on one, focus on a combination. I really like this one right here, a talent developer who is great at both talent acquisition, recruiting, and player development motivation. I feel like that's a pretty good spot to be in. 11 different archetypes, each with their own focuses and perks. Together, they form a rock, paper, and scissors relationship where there's no dominant archetype. Dude, no coach can be great at everything. You got to build a team around you. You got to have good staff around you, good players around you. This is just so ridiculous. Here we could see some of the recruiter perks. So like running backs take less time to fully scout, increase starting interest from running backs, increase your weekly recruiting hours for running backs, etc. Okay, so recruiting is about stages. You've got discovery, pitch, and close. Discovery is the initial stage where you find prospects to target, what their skills are, what they care about most. The sooner you discover this information, the better, as time is of the essence, because then you can move on to the pitch stage once you're in their top 5. During that, you are selling the recruit in your program and what you offer. How well your school aligns with their motivations will determine how successful you are. And then the final stage is close, where you bring them in for an official visit, attempt to leave a lasting impression. If it goes well, you'll make huge gains and possibly even secure a verbal commitment. Ultimately, they will make their decision on signing day. Oh, wow, brand exposure literally it's about NIL potential that they could earn at that school. So how much money they can make playing for you is a big part of it. Again, going to make it tough for smaller schools, but that slow, steady grind is going to be worth it. Each season, more than 3,500 recruits are generated from across the country. Just like the real world, every class is different. Some years have a plethora of great quarterback talent, while others have fewer great prospects. Similarly, the quantity and quality of the prospects from each region will vary. Certain regions will be more consistent in the caliber, quality, and type of recruits they produce than others. And then obviously, depending on where your school's from, you're going to have more advantages for finding those pipelines and getting those players close to home. Dude, this is so ridiculous. When you think about it, I think it said 30-year online dynasty. It might be even longer if you're playing offline. Southern California is known for producing great quarterback talent, while East Texas consistently produces some of the best wide receivers in the country. However, we didn't stop there. We wanted to go deeper to ensure we were capturing the authenticity of high school football talent. Yes, East Texas is known for producing great receivers, but more specifically, they're known for how big and physical their receivers are. As a result, you're going to see bigger and more physical receivers coming out of East Texas, whereas South Florida is going to produce incredibly fast, deep threat receivers who have a smaller size. Bro, the level of detail here. The pipelines have been reshaped into 50 different pipelines. So you've got North Florida, Central Florida, South Florida, Metro Atlanta is its own pipeline. Places like New York and New Jersey, where it's not as big, are going to be combined. So you're going to have, we've got 50 states that we're working across here, 50 different pipelines, but some are split up more than others. Recruiting hours are your core currency to spend on recruiting actions and scouting each week. The amount of hours you have depends on your team prestige and what part of the season that you're in. So higher team prestiges have more resources. They're going to be able to recruit more. Lower teams are not. So a 5-star program is going to have 1,000 recruiting hours compared compared to only 350 for a one-star program. Dude, that is going to be so tough. Time of the year also impacts it. During the preseason and off-season, you don't have to prepare for a game each Saturday, so you have more. In addition to the maximum recruiting hours you could spend a week, each prospect has a maximum number of hours you could spend on them in a given week. Default is 50, but this could be increased to a max of 70 with the always be recruiting ability. This is what scouting looks like when it's at 0%. You have no idea any of their attributes and stats. All you've got is like their name, their position, their tendency, and things like that. Then as you go into more scouting, you can start to get some ranges and you'll start to get some actual numbers. And then as you fully scout them, you're going to have the real information. They go from unscouted to partially scouted to mostly scouted to dude, this is just, it is so deep. Okay, so of those 14 motivations they can have, 3 of them are the ones they care the most about. So if you can find those 3 and pitch with those 3, that's going to be your ideal pitch. That's going to give you your best chance of landing a big recruit. This is crazy, dude. You can find them by searching their social media, spend time scrolling through it to learn a little bit more about them. They'll give you a little bit of influence. You can DM. Dude, this, it's just going to be so good. Oh my gosh. I'm reading this whole thing. Players can choose to leave depending on the performance of the team, who you end up hiring, firing, or if a coach decides to leave, maybe they decide they want to end up going pro or entering the transfer portal. Once they decide to leave, you'll have an opportunity to persuade them to stay. Dude, this is wild. You also have the ability to make roster changes, so you can straight up kick people off. And of course, the transfer portal is going to be a big deal. Hope you're not losing too many players there, but it's just another pipeline of recruiting that moves a little bit faster. You don't have to work on a player for, an entire year and hope they commit to you. You can kind of nab them pretty quickly. This is just so ridiculous, dude. So it's all about the gains. Your players will get better as the season goes on based on their on-field performance, but the bulk of their gains are going to happen in the off-season, which is typically how it works. You get in the gym. To simulate the real-world difference in physical maturity between a freshman and a senior, younger players like rising sophomores will take larger leaps during the off-season than a rising senior. Similarly, a player's coaching staff will have a significant impact on their development. For example, motivators can have the pay-it-forward ability, which yada, yada, yada. Okay, so, your team is constantly going to be ebbing and flowing.
What is pay-it-forward ability, which awards bonus XP to a position group every time a player at that position is drafted in the first 3 rounds? Motivators also have the put-in work ability, which increases off-season development for players in a particular position group. Progression will then be further modified by the player's development trait.
And you got to think, like, obviously you hope that some of these guys make it to senior status and you've got the biggest, baddest dude on the field. But at the same time, if they're that good, they're going to think about going to the NFL. So then you got to persuade them, please don't leave us yet. Stay with us one more year. It's just, there's so much going on. My goodness, you could see some of the ratings and the stats and the perks and the abilities. It's just it's so deep. Of course, you've got wear and tear, so depending on what happens on the field and in games, they take a big hit, something like that. You can have increased chances of injuries, so you got to make sure you're taking care of people, subbing people out, giving people breaks. And here towards the end, it looks like it's talking about the new playoff format and custom, conferences and things like that. Dude, this is just, it is going to be so absolutely ridiculous. 17,000 words and 85 pages in this blog. I didn't even do it justice. There's so much information in here. Again, if you guys want to check it out for yourselves, I'll link it down in the description. But I have not been this excited about a sports game in a very, very long time. Thanks. We are only about a week away. I can't wait to fire up a dynasty and a road to glory here on the channel. Hope you guys are excited too. I've been trying to think about what school I want to start with. Definitely want it to be kind of a rebuild or a build style. I don't want to start with like a major powerhouse. I don't know if we should go for like a 1-star or a half-star program, or if we should try to go somewhere in the middle, like maybe like a 2 or a 3-star in Florida or Texas or something like that. So it's kind of a mix of both. We'll see what happens. But I hope you guys are excited. If you guys have any school suggestions, let me know down in the comments. And I'll see you guys in a week. Peace out.
Okay, the College Football 25 Dynasty Deep Dive is officially here, and I guess I am officially back. I know it's been a month.
What are they doing? They just going to the whole site. They're going to the site. I guess. Like, what's on here? They tell us everything, I guess. Let's see. Game modes, Dynasty. I'm weak. It's only 4 game modes. I mean, that's all they need. It's football, yeah. Oh, yeah, Team Builder. They still haven't said anything on Team Builder. I wonder if somebody has that. Team Builder.
Big schools are trying to recruit him. Having a playing time non-negotiable would shut out all of those programs and perhaps open the door for a talented quarterback to land with a smaller team.
Oh, yeah, Dynasty Deep Dive.
Hey everyone, Kirk Herbstreit here with EA Sports. Recruiting is the lifeblood of college football, and in a world of unlimited transfers, managing your dynasty roster has never been more important. Evaluate your needs and opportunities for talent upgrades at the start of each season. The best way to build a powerhouse is to recruit through the high school ranks. So let's fill up your recruiting board. Each year, over 3,500 high school recruits are generated from all over the country, with certain regions representing real-world hotspots for blue-chip talent, like South Florida and Metro Atlanta. Do research to find recruits that best fit your program and determine who you can realistically land. A recruit's interest in your school is decided by 14 different pitch grades like proximity to home, playing time, and brand exposure. So you'll need to discover how your program's pitch grades align with your recruit's desires, in addition to scouting for talent. Some players have a deal breaker requirement, and if your program cannot provide, the recruit will lock you out. Deal breakers also drive a player's decision to enter the transfer portal. Monitor at-risk players and get one last chance to convince your favorites to stay. Track your recruits as they narrow down their top schools. Pitch a prospect to gain more interest, and then set up school visits when the timing is right. It's crucial to remain in their top 10, then 8, then 5.
So College Football 25 comes out on Monday at 4 p.m. Eastern.
As a recruit trims down to the top 8, you can attempt to increase your appeal. If your school doesn't have exactly what the prospect is looking for, you can try to sway their opinion in your favor. Plan visits that elevate a recruit's experience, like pairing a quarterback visit with a wide receiver visit at the same time. It's crucial to keep an eye on the transfer portal when it opens in the offseason to round out your roster with talent you couldn't land from recruiting. Add portal prospects to your board just like you would with recruiting, but expect quick decisions as transfers have a shorter timeline to land a new home. Conference realignment is a hot topic in college football. And with custom conferences in EA Sports College Football 25, Dynasty is yours to control. See what a 20-team super conference might look like, or revert to the traditional conference alignment. Shape the conference size and membership and set custom conference rules, set up divisions, and more. Once you've settled your conference options, it's time to select your team. Begin with a highly ranked team and dominate at the top with repeat recruiting and playoff success. Or build from the ground up with a smaller program and prove you have what it takes to go from an unknown to postseason favorite. We can't talk about your dynasty without talking about your starting job. Start as an offensive or defensive coordinator and climb the ranks to head coach. Or take over a program as the head coach right away. Choose from one of the 3 base coaching types to start. Your coach type will determine what coaching skill tree you start with. From there, the abilities you acquire as you progress will determine what kind of coach you develop into. Unlock additional skill trees with better abilities. Or, if you build up multiple skill trees, you can unlock hybrid trees that leverage a more diverse skill set. The coaching carousel is an important part of every coach's journey. Whether you're the head man at your dream school or working your way up, the Carousel is your way of fielding offers from other programs. Head coaches in Dynasty can actively manage their coordinator positions. So if one of your staff takes a job elsewhere, or you decide to cut ties for other reasons, you can use the Carousel to replace them. Remember, even the greatest coaches need support, and every coach has a unique skill tree. It's important to think about how you want to build your staff, whether that's doubling down on your existing strengths to max out your benefits or seeking out balance for a well-rounded staff. Choose wisely. The decisions you make here will matter to your program's success and your coach's progression. The benefits of coach talents are stackable, so if your head coach and defensive coordinator have the same ability, the impact for that ability will be greater. Well, that's it for today's deep dive into Dynasty mode in EA Sports College Football 25. To make it game day every day this season, pre-order the MVP bundle.
It hurts me to keep secrets from you guys, but I've had to keep a secret locked away for, feels like weeks now, I think. We have...
I want to see gameplay.
I'm going to be showing one full season of Dynasty Mode and showing you a complete guide on how to recruit. Thanks to EA for allowing me to capture this early. This is on an earlier build and not part of the day one patch. I'm assuming most people will want a challenge in their first rebuild, so I'm going to be showing you what it's like controlling a one-star program. Kennesaw State is one of the lowest overall rated teams in the game, and I think it'll be a great example of what it's going to look like when you're a lower star team. You can be a head coach in this game, or an offensive coordinator, or a defensive coordinator if you so choose. I think it's more interesting to create your own coach, so that's what we're going to do here. So when choosing a coach, you have to decide what is your main archetype going to be right from the get-go. You got motivator, recruiter, and tactician. Later on, I'm going to go way more in depth for a coaching abilities tier list, but for this video, we'll keep it light. You can look at motivator as an easy way to get XP for your players over the long haul. Tactician is going to give you direct ratings boosts right away. So if you're trying to be win now, I'd probably go tactician. If you're trying to develop players over the long haul, go motivator. But I think what everyone is going to be choosing from the get-go is going to be recruiter, and it makes it way easier to bring in higher overall players. So that is what I'm going to be choosing for this video. Choosing your playbook is incredibly important for your team needs, because if you run an air raid offense, you're going to need way more wide receivers than if you did a run heavy option, for example. For this one, I'm going to keep it as Kennesaw State's default at the pistol. You notice we can set the pipeline for my head coach. Because Kennesaw State is just outside of Metro Atlanta, I think it'd be smart to have that as my pipeline, because this can directly stack with my team's pipeline already. Now you only got two options for shirts here. You got the polo, the sweater quarter zip thing, so that's what I'm going with. Kennesaw State is a brand new FBS team, so they have no history here, which is going to have the contract goals be incredibly low at only winning 4 games. So I've got a lot of breathing room here as a head coach. When you actually sign the contract, your coach physically signs it in there, which I think is neat. When we get to the coaching abilities tree, you'll notice that there is a ton of different options here. Like I said, I'm going to be doing a coach abilities breakdown later on, so stay tuned for that video. Don't want to overwhelm you here. There's over 276 coaching abilities in this game. Do need some prerequisites for certain ones, like talent developer, you need to have 2 players drafted in the first round, and you need to have spent 25 in recruiter and motivator. And all the way at the top, for CEO, you need to win 2 national championships and spin 100 in any tree. So some of these you're not going to be even having the option to get to for quite some time. For this video, I'm going to be only focusing on the recruiting tree. There's a basic recruiter path and an elite recruiter one later on. But to get to elite recruiter, you need to sign 2 top 5 recruiting classes and spend 50 coach points in recruiter. This is broken down by position group. Now, how you want to build your team is up to you, but I personally like to look at the quarterback first and build out from there. Smart people would probably go to the offensive or defensive line, especially because when you upgrade advanced look, it takes less time to fully scout a position. And for offensive and defensive line, this encompasses quite a few positions: left tackle, left guard, center, right guard, right tackle, and obviously for the defensive line, all of those. So you could probably get more benefit spending it over here versus at the quarterback one, but I value the quarterback position so much, so I'm going to spend my 5 points right here, and I'll probably use my points elsewhere once I get more. The preseason is an incredibly important time for the recruiting stages. The reason for this is you have more recruiting hours to spend here than you would during a regular week, because your team's not preparing for games kind of thing. But you can see this up on the top right. At Kennesaw State, we have 450 hours to spend right now. Now your recruiting hours is directly tied to your team prestige. So if you're a team like Georgia, Ohio State, Alabama, those like 5-star programs, those schools have way more resources to use. So their recruiting hours is like probably 1,000 or more. So that's more than double what we have to use. They're going to be able to scout way more players than we will, and they can go all in on a vast majority of those players. At a one-star program, I would urge you to be more targeted in your approach. Like in most of my recruiting classes at a one-star program, I end up with like 15 or so recruits. Like if we look at the Kennesaw State's team needs, we definitely need some quarterbacks. It says our rating is a C-, so that could easily be upgraded. And honestly, a lot of these positions need to be upgraded. But not having a fullback on roster, that's just disrespectful. So we got to change that right away. But our quarterbacks are only in the 60s, so that means our playing time for the new recruits coming in is going to be massive, because most of them are going to be over 60 something overall. The first thing you'll see is a recommended tab here. This is what the game is trying to help you get players that will be easier for you to get. On the far left, you can see these little green dots. This will let you know if a player is interested at any level. You can see I sort right here. This guy has no interest in us yet. You can also sort by the interest one. Will show you directly which number he's at. Like this 3-star quarterback, Daniel Cohn, we're number 3 on his board right now. You can also see if he's a JUCO player or a high school player. Daniel Cohn is in high school. He's got no offers currently. Sorting by this is going to be really important later, which I'll show you. And then finally, you can look at height and weight, but no longer can you look at 40 time. You can't look at bench press, squats, or anything like that. But the way I like to populate my board is by going to any state and narrowing it down from here, because this opens it up and you'll notice all these players that are completely grayed out. This is because they have deal breakers that we do not fit. A lot of the 4 and 5 stars in the country care about things like pro potential, championship contender, and high coach prestige, things like that. As a brand new program, we really are not able to fit those needs. However, there are some players that can slip through the cracks here. Like we see this 5-star defensive end. He cares about playing time, which he's going to be way better than anyone we currently have on roster. So there is a small chance we're able to sneak in here and get him. I'll add Arthur Quick to the board just so you can take a look at him. You'll notice scrolling down, some players have deal breakers that we can see and some don't. But noting what they have can be very important because players have 3 ideal things that they care about the most, deal breaker being the one that they're the most passionate about overall. And getting to know that information early makes it way easier to start recruiting them. Like for Arthur Quick's example, we know the thing he cares about most is playing time, and we have A+ in that, meaning it's going to be way easier to pitch him for that, but I'll explain more about that later on. But if you see something over a B here for deal breaker, I think there is potential that you could land this player. Keenan Baker is an athlete, but it looks like he's a scrambling quarterback, and his proximity to home is A+. We have the lowest tier pipeline influence, but that could still come at an advantage. The only danger here is you'll look at the top schools down here. The schools we'll be competing against is Georgia, Clemson, Alabama, Tennessee, Ohio State. So if they even thought about looking at Keenan Baker, we'd probably be in trouble. Either way, I'm still going to take a look at him and see if they ignore him, because he currently has no offers. Daniel Cohn has already got a deal breaker on us now, but that's because we've been populating our board with other quarterbacks. You see, Daniel Cohn has playing time at higher, but it dropped lower because we added these blue chip prospects ahead of him. So if we wanted to really chase after Daniel Cohn, we would need to take these guys off the board. So you're like, what happens when I remove all these players? Suddenly, his playing time goes back to an A+. Now let's scout Daniel Cohn and see what he's looking like as a 3-star player. Well, now I clicked one time and I see his 85 throw power, which is not really what I'm looking for. Scout this 5-star Arthur Quick, which we do not have the quicker scout for defensive linemen. So it takes 1, 2, and 3 clicks, and we see that he's a gem for a 5-star. So this guy is a tremendous football player. But you can see how you could spend a lot of points just scouting players. Even at full scouted, you will not see the players full overall. It's on you to look at their top 10 attributes based on their archetype to make a decision on how you feel about them as a player. I feel like this adds another layer to scouting. It's more about finding players that fit what you want to go for more than just looking for the highest overall. Put a player like Arthur Quick, yeah, he's probably going to be pretty good. My guess is he's in the high 70s range, which is probably one of the more elite freshmen you can get. Now, one strategy you could do is you could look at, well, this guy's a 5-star. Even if he's a 5-star bust, that's still a 4-star quality player. So that's still a good player you're getting. So you could look at the 5 stars and just be like, I'm going to take what I get. I don't really need to know his abilities right from the get-go. But for me, I'm a little more curious. And if we look at Arthur Quick's overview, I mean, just seeing the teams that we're going to be competing against here, I don't think they're going to be ignoring a 5-star gem like this. They have the pipelines that are way stronger than us, but we might be able to get him just based on the playing time thing. But we'll see. I'm still going to offer him a scholarship. He's too good of a player to not take a chance at, you know. And in the preseason, you can only scout and offer players scholarships. Now, in my experience, I have not landed a 5-star player at a 1-star school yet, but maybe this video is the lucky time. So what I'm going to do is try that strategy with these other positions. Because we're so limited on recruiting hours, I'm not even going to scout this right tackle and just hope he's good later. Now, if we get farther down the process and he starts to respond well, then I'll scout him. But I'll take any 5-star I can get here at Kennesaw State. You could try to populate your board with a bunch of like 2 and 3 stars, but I find that to be a little bit more challenging because you only have limited hours to scout, so you're not really going to know what you're going to be getting. The 2 stars have a lower floor. I'd much rather take a chance on the higher profile players. In my opinion, you're going to get way less of them, but the ones you do land are going to be game changers. A little tip here, Max Shelley and Clay Zelenka, they both have playing time as their deal breaker, and both of them are 4 stars. Clay is the 32 ranked quarterback in the country, so he's 1 spot higher than Max Shelley at 33. Deal breaker goes on to Clay. So I already know that Max is a higher overall than Clay is here. So I guess I could try to ignore Clay, but they could probably both be good players. Let me scout Max here and see what we got. So he's got 90 throw power. He's got mobile deadeye, so he's already got some good abilities. Yep, he is indeed a gem, so we knew he was a higher overall player. Good accuracy, 85 deep is strong. There's a lot of coach abilities under the tactician path that can help you with short and medium accuracy, so being stronger at the deep accuracy is outrageously important for a player. And I find the playing time deal breaker to be the easiest one for smaller programs to achieve, because the higher programs typically have much better players, so it's going to be harder competition for them to get on the field. And you're probably asking, why am I talking about here? Well, these are the My School ratings. Like if you look at Kennesaw State, our championship contenders in the dumpster, it's as low as it can go at D-. Same thing with like program tradition, brand exposure. We're not going to have too many NIL opportunities for you, champ. So the way I approach it at these small schools is only going by proximity to home, playing style, and playing time. That's because these are different for each player. You can see over here on the quarterbacks on my board, Max Shelley's got an A+ grade. That's because he's a quality player, so he's more likely to start right away. We have an interesting situation with Logan here, though. These other teams are good programs, but none of them have the proximity to home pipeline tier bonus from Louisville, Kentucky, except for Louisville and Kentucky, of course, but they're lower on the board right now. So I'm going to take a chance on Logan here. He's got some good qualities here and some good abilities. Oh, we got our first bust. I mean, he does have 90 speed, 91 acceleration, so he's probably like a higher 3-star. He's got the option king. He probably falls off on the deep throw because we don't see it in his top 10 attributes here. Because for the different archetypes, it will show you different things. Oh, 95 throw power. This is going to be a gem. Yep, I didn't even need to click through that. Silas Marie looks like a ball player. 100 speed? I have never seen that, gentlemen. I did not even know that was possible in this game. Holy moly. Okay, my jaw is on the floor. I think we need to change our strategy here. I don't care, Max Shelley. You're a good player. We'll look at you later on, but I'm clearing off this board. Yeah, when you have generational speed, you're going to the absolute top of my board. And we have the A+ proximity to home on Keenan Baker. The really issue here is Georgia is extremely high on his board. I assume they have A+ proximity to home too. If they even think about getting Keenan Baker, he's going to flip over there because they're obviously a much better program than we are. My Keenan's getting a scholarship, a firm one. My strategy here is just populate the board with as many talented players as I can to where they don't have a deal breaker. The reason I'm doing this and not scouting them right from the get-go is because I have limited points as a smaller school, but I can cast my net as wide as possible by just offering scholarships here, and then I'll make my first moves once the season starts. And with all these guys being 4 and 5 stars, they're probably going to be pretty good players nonetheless, even if they are busts. So at my level, I'd be totally fine with a 4-star bust, and we'd still be getting value there in my opinion. Of course, you can set a custom schedule. I would probably avoid scheduling the Georges of the world, especially at level 1, because you're definitely going to be losing this game. But I do want to show you some of the whole field advantage effect stuff, so we'll pop into that game for 2 seconds, and you'll get a sense of how bad we are as a team from the get-go, and how far we have to build up. Now that you can see we're in the regular season, our recruiting hours has dropped to 350, so we have 100 less than we did in the offseason. The first guy I want to check on, of course, is Keenan Baker, and oh no, bad news for us. Georgia has already offered him a scholarship. The hope of getting generational speed out here is probably going to be dead. But you see, we do get some influence bonus for offering him a scholarship, just 2 ticks right there. We don't have a huge pipeline bonus for him, only the level 1. All the teams in his top 8 right now are going to destroy us with those bonuses. Now that they've offered him a scholarship, this race is likely going to be over, but I'll keep him on the board just so you can see how it plays out. Seems like nobody's going for this 3-star fullback though, and you know I love me some fullbacks. We'll scout him just out of curiosity, and he is a gem. Love to see that. All fullbacks are gems in my eyes. Like I said, I've never gotten a 5-star at a 1-star program before, because you can see how immediately competitive it is. Of course, he's one of the best players in the entire country, Arthur Quick, so my scholarship means a lot less to him. Only getting the 1 tick here versus the 2 ticks for other players. 6 schools that have offered him a scholarship besides me, so Arthur Quick, I mean, I don't even know if it's worth me spending any more points on it, because I already know I'm not going to get him. With only 350 recruiting hours, I have to be quite selective here. Even though I know this is probably hopeless to get Keenan Baker, I still can't resist. I'm going to send the house and try as much as possible to get him, because it's not often you see freaking generational speed out here. 196 throw power to pair with it. That just sounds fun, so I'm going to try it. But 50 points is so expensive for us, so we have to be careful, and I can only choose a couple of guys to do that on. One way I can see I already have an advantage here is Salvador Pujols. No one has offered him a scholarship besides us, so this is an opportunity for us to sneak in there, and he's the number 4 center in the entire country. So this would be a massive game changer for us. I think this is an easy send the house for him. Now, I haven't scouted him yet, so I'm going to do it now just out of curiosity, and he even is a gem. 89 impact, 92 strength. Pretty obvious he's a quality player. Now that the regular season has started, a lot of schools have sent out scholarship offers to a ton of different players. And this is when I really like to look around and see who slipped through the cracks. You can consider this like the low lock cheese from NCAA 14 in a way. Caleb Bloom,
like,
we have the A+ proximity to home.
Like,
So I think it's
like,
worth
what their
gambling on
highs
that.
are like.
First
What
step
if
you really want to do is offer them a
236
scholarship before you do anything else,
win.
because these will have lasting benefits. So the quicker you get that scholarship to them, the better. But after that, you can see there's options here. You can search their social media, DM the player, contact friends and family, and send the house. Later on, we'll talk about the pitches, and we'll also talk about the visits. The more hours you spend, the higher influence you see here on the right, where if you send the house, you're going to get those 4 ticks, whereas the lowest one at just searching social media, you're only going to get the 1 little tick. Try to find the player that you value the most and go all in on him, because competing against these top programs, you're not going to get too many high-profile players. In my testing, I've probably gotten 2 to 3 4-stars in my year 1s of rebuilds. And then the rest are filled with 3 and 2 stars. So that should show you a lot of these players will not be committing to Kennesaw State here. So I got to try and find the guys I care about the most and go all in on them. Now that we've reached week 1, you see how many guys have already locked me out. This is how quickly it can change, especially with these higher profile players. I'm not in their top 8. So this is going to be a mass exodus on my board, but that's totally fine. Because I was aggressive with Keenan Baker, we were able to slip into his top 8 before it closed up. Now, Georgia, Tennessee, and South Carolina are making way more progress than I am, but I'm not giving up hope in this fight because we've snuck into this first round. We're also still in the race for Logan Wisnowski because I dropped 50 points his way too. We send the house at both of them, which is the only reason we're still holding on. But because I added these players that have no scholarship offers, this is a real chance for me to leap up here. I'm going to scout him just out of curiosity, and this player has 97 speed. That's a huge interest for me. I love the deep threat players, so I think I want to be aggressive with him. Let's go straight up, sit in the house for him. And we're seeing that lasting effect on Salvador Pujols. No one offered him a scholarship. Then we came in here, offered him a scholarship, sent the house, and now we are number 1 on his board. The number 4 center in the country, we could be having a chance to get him. That's because we were paying attention, looking around, and seeing what we could get. Now, because I want to show you more than just recruiting here, I want to show you what it's like to play on the road and show you some of these home field advantage effects, because it's freaking crazy. Now, Georgia is 20 overall points higher than us. They're the number 1 ranked team in the country, and their Stadium Pulse, aka their toughest place to play ranking, is top 10.
Hello and welcome to Athens, Georgia, the classic city and a classic day for college football. The atmosphere absolutely exhilarating as the Georgia Bulldogs set to tee it up at Sanford Stadium to start this season. Today's matchup, a battle in the Peach State, and when you square off against another team that was raised on the red clay, the emotion runs a little deeper. As we'll see a squad from Conference USA, the Kennesaw State Owls, taking on the number 1 team in the land, the Georgia Bulldogs. For EA Sports College Football, I'm Reese Davis, joined here in the booth, as always, by David Pollack and Jesse Palmer.
Do like the graphics that pop up. Oh my gosh, Stadium Pulse toughness ranked number 1. Yeah, I knew this was going to be difficult. You can see everyone's composure is in the dumpster. We're as cold as we can get because we're playing on the road in a tough environment. Strategy is probably to try and run the ball, which is going to be difficult against elite linebackers and defensive line that Georgia has. I don't even know what button my tight end is. If I try to hot route, it's not even possible for those players. I can only do the ones I know. I think that's due to the mental abilities for my quarterback and his composure rating currently. We're going to try and throw it low to the tight end, and he drops it. I would love to do an out route with the player on the left, but I'm not going to be able to, so I'll do it with the player on the right. But he's struggling to hear me. I think it went through. He tapped his helmet like he did. Oh, that's a horrible ball. Not really the good arm strength that we were hoping for. Probably should have lobbed that over. That's going to be an interception, and this crowd is about to erupt. Well, this is probably hopeless, but I'll try to play defense. Can we get around the corner? Just try and slow him down. We're not going to stop him. Georgia has so many impact players. There's no limit to that. So all those stars means that's a high-quality player they got. We only got like 1 on defense, which the minimum is 1. We are just simply outclassed in every area. And when you're adding on the home field advantage effects, it gets even more terrifying. Lobbing it in there. Oh, he caught that. Are we sure that's a touchdown?
Touchdown, Dogs!
The home field advantage effects are way more intimidating in this game than they ever were in NCAA 14. Like, I mean, you still have the squiggly lines and stuff, but it goes another level. Okay, we know the post route, but they're running 3 high, so it doesn't really help me too much. Can we do a slant route for Bo? He doesn't know. It's going to be a false start. We went too low and tried to do hot routes low in the play clock, which leads to a higher chance of false starts. I'm going to try to block the running back here. Oh, he heard me. He's right next to me. Good. I really want to hit the tight end if possible, but they're blitzing. Throw it on a dime, but way off the mark. Do not have the accuracy for my quarterback. Try and scramble, champ. Oh my, I'm terrified. In open field with like 6 Georgia Bulldogs in my face. Oh my gosh, I keep trying to tell my circle button to run a slant, but he won't hear me. I think he finally heard me after like 6 tries. That is how difficult it is to make it happen. Oh, reach up there and try and grab it, but they push it out. But I think you get the idea here now. Georgia's going to stomp us in the simulation, too. Yeah, at halftime, it's 45-10. 52, 60. Oh my gosh, they're going to drop so many on us. So I think it's pretty obvious we have a long way to rebuild if we're getting beat by 60 points. I mean, Georgia's the best team in the country, so that's a good measuring stick for how far you have to go. 8 touchdowns for Carson Beck. Oh my goodness. But even just playing that game, doing a little bit, getting a couple first downs here and there, it got us to level 2. I really want to go all in on these quarterbacks, so I'm going to keep spinning here. I'm going to put it in most influential, so my recruiting actions have bigger impact. And I'm also going to go increase weekly recruiting hours for quarterbacks. Originally, I could only spend 50 hours on a specific recruit. If I go over to a different position like running back, he's still capped at the 50 because I do not have the coach ability to bring that up to a higher level. And your coaching abilities can stack with your coordinators. Offensive coordinator, he's an elite recruiter. This is going to be awesome because our recruiting actions have even way bigger effect on QBs. And it looks like my defensive coordinator has it too, but they're primarily for defensive players. The coaching abilities can stack and have a bigger effect. Now I have a cap of 65 hours I can spend on him each week, so I'm going to get to that level. We're going to DM him and search his social media. We're really trying to compete with those top dogs. Literally, Georgia's number 1. They're the dogs. Keenan Baker's now up to his top 5 schools, and we're still in there barely at number 4. So now it opens up the ability to schedule a visit, and honestly, with the competition we have here, I'd probably try to schedule this as soon as possible. And the benefit for us is we already know his deal breaker. So if you didn't know his deal breaker, you would have to start doing pitches. Usually you would not want to hard sell him right away, but I already know proximity to home is his deal breaker. It's not shown right here, but that's going to be one of the check marks on the interest here. Each player has 3 check marks that are hidden behind these question marks. It is slowly revealed the more influence you gain on them. You can sell a player on just one of the interests. He cares about athletic facilities, and I definitely know he cares about proximity to home. So I'm going to try to gamble here on this one and hard sell him. But I also want to try to schedule a visit. This costs 40 later on. Bonuses / negatives that could happen in each game. Like if I schedule a game against FCS, which is the Pandas, shout out UGF, I'm getting no influence for the win here because we're